If you want to make a live stream countdown scene for Ecamm Live with overlays, then this video is for you. Hello and welcome to Take One Tech. My name's Alec, and in this video we are talking about countdown screens. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's something that looks a little bit like this. So it's the screen that you have before your live stream starts. And why do we have these? Well, it saves going straight into your content and people not having time to actually see that you're live and join you on the stream. But it also serves as a sort of visual cue to people who have joined that something is happening and that the stream will be starting. If you went with the option of just a simple stream starting soon slide with nothing actually moving on it, then people wouldn't really know what was going on, how long they were going to have to wait or anything like that. You could obviously just have just the timer, but I think having an image in there and some sort of movement does help keep people engaged. I know some people like to dance in the background while they're waiting for their streams to start to help keep people engaged, but that's not something that I tend to do, I have to say, and I'm probably saving you all a visual nightmare by not doing that as well. But there you go, that's just me. And so I also do have my sort of social profiles scrolling on there as well, which is also an option. But yeah, what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how you can build one of these out in Keynote and then bring it into Ecamm Live, and then we'll set up some things in there such as the countdown timer and so on. But then also I'll show you how easy it is for it to just then go on, and once the countdown finishes and the music finishes, to automatically advance into your main scene. Now, I should say that this whole topic was something that I did cover as part of a much larger 4.5 hour long marathon tutorial, which takes you through from start to finish with basically a fresh install of Ecamm Live, all the way through to having 5 or 6 scenes built out, complete with overlays, and then also how to program these all with your Stream Deck. And we even made the icons for our Stream Deck in Keynote as well. And then we went on to a going live checklist, which you can run through before you actually hit that live button to make sure that you have got everything covered. So that is available on my YouTube channel, but also on my website. And the reason why you might want to go to my website, which incidentally is takeonetech.io, is because as well as the video itself, just underneath it on the home page, you'll also see a download pack, and that includes all of the overlays that I made in that tutorial and all of the icons that I made for the Stream Deck in that particular tutorial, as well as the original source files, which can serve as templates, so that you can go in there and modify them and edit them and really sort of make them your own and fit in with the style and branding of your site or your channel. So with that said, rather than actually just give this as an excerpt to that of that video, I've actually thought I might as well just go and redo it, because there are a couple of things that I thought could probably be improved upon, and at the end of the day it will just be another template that you'll be able to look at as a reference and maybe pick up a few other tips from this video as well. So with all of that waffling out of the way, let's get straight to it. And the first thing that we're going to look at is not actually Keynote. We're going to get ourselves a nice shiny background that we can use for our screen. And I did a video all about this as well, where we're going to get it from, which is a site called unsplash.com. And that's a great free stock imagery site. Now, I do actually subscribe to Adobe Stock, and you can get lots of stock images, videos, music and things like that from there. But really, if you're only going to get the odd image here or there, or just want a nice backdrop, then something like Unsplash is a great choice. As I say, I'll link to the video about that because I talk about the sort of licensing and things like that. But just to cut to the chase, it's free to use for non-commercial purposes if you're not going to be like reselling them, but you can actually use it for commercial purposes as long as you're not going to resell the image unedited or changed in any way. But like I say, I've linked to the video about it in particular. But here we go. If we go to unsplash.com, link in the description for the site as well, and we're just going to search for abstract background, which is always good, I find, for getting abstract backgrounds that are good for backdrops and things like that. So we're going to just scroll down and pick something at random. That is the one, incidentally, that we used in the tutorial that I did. So I won't pick that one again, because you can go and watch that tutorial if you want to see how I incorporated that. With this one, I've got a little circle here around my mouse, haven't I? So I actually did basically my countdown timer was a little circular countdown, much like I've got for my actual countdown timer, the one I showed you at the beginning of this video. So that's how I used that one. But if we look for something a little bit different, and that one's actually quite good. It's got it's a little bit more angular. Maybe we can make a square window in that one for a change. And so all you do is you just click on plus. Oh no, that's add to collection, I beg your pardon. You click on this one, the little down arrow signifying download. So if you click on that, it will just download it. So that's come down into my downloads, and if you actually click on the image, you can see more information about it. So yeah, that's now in my download. So now I'm going to go over to Keynote. So if I move over to Keynote, I'm not going to go through the whole process of making overlays as such in Keynote in depth, because I've covered that in a number of other videos, which I'll link down below as well. But basically, just to cover the very basics, when you load Keynote, it'll be something like this. One thing to make sure is just make sure you're on widescreen rather than standard. It defaults to wide anyway, so it probably won't be an issue. Then we're going to click on Create. As we are only making a single slide today, I won't bother going into doing slide masters. As I've said, I've covered that in another video as well. So we might as well just hide this view at the side. If you've got multiple slides, this is where they'll show up. But we can just click into view and slide only, and that gives us a little bit more space to work with, doesn't it? So now what I want to do is I want to go into my downloads folder and just quickly grab this slide. Bear with me 1 second. I should have had that open, shouldn't I? Lack of preparation today, I'm afraid. Not that I normally prepare that much for them, to be honest. But let's delete these items of text, and then grab the download that we've got, and we'll just drag that in. And when my computer's finished thinking about it, there we go. It is in portrait at the moment, so we need to just flip that round. So the easiest way to do that is, if you haven't got this side inspector open, then just come over here to the format, click on format, and then we want the arrange, which is where you have the sort of position, size and things like that. So click in arrange, and then we'll come down somewhere, there should be rotate. So we can either do it with this little slider here, rotating it manually, or we can just come in here and type 90 for 90 degrees. And that looks about right. So let me just drag this up to the top corner, and then drag this corner down here, like that. And so what I thought we'd do is put a square shape, maybe like in this area here, or maybe put it up in the top corner. Let's have a look. So first of all, I'll add a square, and then I'm going to rotate that 45 degrees so that it looks the same as the others. That looks about right. And then I tell you what, let's make this the square the same size as this square. I'll just drag it out to be, that looks about the same. Doesn't have to be exact. And then I'll drag this over to here. And then this can be the area where we're going to have the cutout for our image. If I just drag that out a little bit more, how does that look? Is it almost aligned? It's as near as makes no difference really, isn't it? So there we go. I'll click in there, and then if I go over to style, and we want to, we're going to make that any color really, because we're going to remove that afterwards outside of Keynote, and that is going to be where our picture is going to be. So we're going to make that part transparent. So by the way, in some of my other videos, I've talked about making the whole slide transparent for overlays and things like that. But in this case, because we've got a solid image and we've just got this one little cutout, we'll be making the transparency in this outside of Keynote, so we don't need to bother with that step. So just in case you've watched some of my other videos and think I've forgotten something, it's not going to be necessary for this one where we're just doing a single slide. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So we'll change that to black. That will be the area that we're going to remove afterwards. And so that is almost there for the background. That was pretty easy, wasn't it? Just download an image from Unsplash, add a little area for a cutout, and let's add now some text onto it for that stream starting soon. So we'll come up to the little text tool here, and then we'll click in here, stream starting soon. And then let's make that text bigger. So if I drag it down here perhaps, and then come over to in the format inspector still, we come over to the text box, and then let's make that bigger. Let's say 150. That's a little bit on the large side, isn't it? So what you can do is you can, rather than change the text in here, you can also, if you've got the text selected, like the text box, just press Command and then the minus key to make it larger or smaller. So perhaps something like that might be better. We don't want it too big, but we also obviously want people to see it. And bear in mind, whenever you're doing things with text on that's going to appear on your screen, if you're working on it on your Mac, depending on what size screen you're on, it might look very big, but bear in mind when it's sort of scaled down to mobile size. But let's have a look. Is that still viewable if somebody's watching it in a sort of mobile in portrait mode? So it's a little letterbox. So bear that in mind whenever you're putting any sort of text or things like that on the screen, just to understand that some people might be watching on small devices. So there we go. That's all we're going to do for that one, to be honest. You can obviously add your logo. I won't bother adding my logo in, but you can add your logo in or any other information you want to put in there. But for now, we're just going to get on to the next stage, because really I want to get on to how to actually set this up into Ecamm Live. So we want to export that. So we'll go up to File at the top, Export to, and then we come down here to Images, click on Image, and then we've only got one slide, so this is a very easy process. And we come to the format and just change that to PNG, and then I'll click on Next, and then let's just call this Countdown. So I'll save that, and now if I come to my wherever that is in here, we've got that somewhere. There it is. So if I open that up now, and if I just open the file, it should open in Preview, which is the default app on the Mac for images. So it's opened up in Preview, and what we want to do from here, you may remember this from a previous tutorial if you've watched them, but we just come up to this markup in the top and click on that one. And then over on here, we've got this thing, the Instant Alpha, which looks like, I suppose, a little magic wand or something like that. So we click on that, and then we drag it into the place that we want to make transparent. And we press the mouse button down and hold it, and then we drag. And you can see if we drag it further and further, it will eventually turn the whole scene transparent, or the whole page transparent. So it's a case of keeping the mouse button held down until you've basically only got the area that you want is sort of highlighted in this red color. So I've just let it go. If you ever do let it go too soon, then you can just press the escape key, and then it'll get rid of it, and you can try it again. So there we go. I've just highlighted that black square, and so now it's got that little bounding box around it, and if you press the delete key, now it's turned grey, which is the colour of the background, because that part is now transparent. So if I close that down now and save it, and then what we want to do is we want to come over to our Ecamm Live. So let me just share my whole screen with you for one moment. There we go. I'll share this, and I've changed the sort of layout of this a little bit to try and make it a little bit easier to see. I think like before, when I was doing screen demos, maybe the actual preview window was a bit small, maybe it might have been hard to see. So I've tried to move these around so it's a bit clearer. So we've got scenes down this side, and then we've got overlays down the other side, and then a couple of other palettes down at the bottom, but we'll come on to those afterwards. Now what we need to do is create a new blank scene, and I've sort of jumped one step ahead here because I've created a blank screen called Countdown. Here we go. So this is our blank canvas that we're going to work with, and what we need to do is, first of all, let's get the camera back in there. So if we come into our overlays palette, and then right down at the bottom click on the camera, and then it's going to bring in the default camera, which is me. And then let's change this to a square shape, and just I think it'll make it easier to work with a little bit further down the line. So let's make that a square. And then what we need to do is, if we come to, that's going to be somewhere around about there, and then if we come into our overlays again and come down to the bottom and click on the graphic overlay, which is this one, the new image overlay rather. So then from there we can just grab our overlay, which is this countdown, click on that one, and then bring that in. There you go. The picture's a little bit too small really, isn't it? So if I move that to the edge of that corner and drag this one down. Oh, that's a little bit too large, isn't it? My head on the screen, but never mind. That's the shape we've got. So there, we've now got my picture in the middle of the shot. So what do we need to add on now? Well, we need to add on, perhaps we could add that, I mentioned about adding the sort of actual title of the stream itself. So let's do that in Ecamm, because I didn't do that in Keynote, because obviously that's something that's going to change from one stream to the next. So we've got the stream starting soon, which is going to be the same for everyone. But if I come down here now and just go to the little text overlay, then this we could call our stream title. for whatever the subject is going to be for that stream. And then, yeah, you can change all the fonts and things like that. And then click on add. So now we've got our stream title. That's a little bit on the small side. Well, if you've got a little scroll wheel on your mouse, then you can actually just scroll to make it bigger and smaller on your mouse, or you can come in here and actually select a specific size in there. And yeah, so that is the text in. So let's say that's going to be there. Let's actually just maybe put this on a couple of lines. Incidentally, if you want to make a new line, then if you just pressed return, then it would actually, if I'll do it now, it's going to basically be pressing this save button. So it's a bit counterintuitive. You might wonder what's happening and why you can't put something on a new line, but you just have to press shift and then return, and then it will go down onto a new line. So I'm just doing this to demonstrate. It's probably not the best way to actually lay this out for this particular title, but there you go. It's just as a demonstration. And next one you would want to add is the actual countdown itself. So let's come over to overlays again and come down to countdown. So that is this one down at the bottom, new countdown overlay. So I'm going to click on that, and there's a couple of things you can change in here. The time for the countdown can either be a countdown timer, which is what we want, but you could also have it count down to a specific date and time. So you could put in obviously a date and time here, and it would just show you how long you've got until that. Or you can change it to a clock, just to put the time, if ever you want your time to be like a sort of timestamp on your video in the background, or a stopwatch. But what we're wanting here is obviously a specific countdown so that people know how long until our stream starts. Now the next thing we want to do is, first of all, have it auto start when the scene starts, because we're going to go to this scene and then we want this to start with the that we'll put some music on it as well. And then when it finishes, do you want it to just keep cycling through? Or no, we don't. Or do you want it to actually do an action? And the action that we want it to do is go to the next scene when finished. So that is how we have it, so that when this scene, this timer runs down, it's going to go to the next scene. Now I have a particular piece of music that I use for my countdown pages, my countdown scenes, and I happen to know the length of that piece of music is 3 minutes and 24 seconds, he says, looking at his book. So if I put in here 3:24, then the timer is now the same length of time as the piece of intro music. And so what that means is when I go to this scene, the music will start, the countdown will start, and then when the countdown finishes, as if by magic, the music will have just finished as well, and then it will go to the next scene. So I'm going to click in add. Now I've mentioned the music, but we haven't actually put it in yet. Well, first of all, let's put this timer somewhere where we might want it, perhaps up in the top corner, just like I've got it on my other one, but you can put it wherever you want. And so I'm going to put that up there, but then we're going to come down to our overlays. No, we're not. Music isn't in overlays. Music is in sound effects. And here is the stream starting music that I've got, which is the one that I had at the beginning that you heard, this one. And as I say, that is exactly 3 minutes, 24 seconds long. And so what you do is you come here and click on the cogwheel next to it, and then press add to scene. And so now that music, as you can see from the top here, is being assigned and is in this scene. You can use it in multiple different scenes, but it is now part of this scene. And what's going to happen is if I come out of this scene, then when we go back into our countdown, then the music starts and the countdown starts at exactly the same time. So if I just, as if by magic, pause my recording and let this run down a little bit, you can see what happens when it reaches the end. As if by magic, I saved you sitting through that countdown timer with me. So I've just paused it and restarted again when the countdown gets nearly down to the bottom, so that you can see that as if by magic, when it gets down to 0, it's just going to launch straight into the main scene. So this is obviously a good idea, so that you don't have to worry about switching scenes at the right time. It will just go straight into your next scene, as you'll see in 5, 4, 3, 2, watch this, no hands. There you go. So that is how you do a countdown timer. Now, incidentally, I should actually also point out that you've got the volume and things like that can be set on a scene by scene basis. So if I were to come into the countdown and, for example, mute my mic. Now I've come back to the main scene and it's still muted. It's unmuted rather, but if I go to the countdown, then it should. So that's something that you might want to do as well, is have it so that when you're on your countdown for your stream, that your mic is muted, and then when you come out of your countdown, that it becomes unmuted. And that is pretty much all there is to setting up a countdown timer in Ecamm Live. Pretty straightforward really, isn't it? I hope you found that useful. If you have, then obviously don't forget to go and hit that like button, and also subscribe to the channel so that you get notified whenever I make any other new videos. And I've done, as I say, the whole tutorial about Ecamm Live, but I've also got a lot of other videos that are much smaller and in bite-sized pieces, so you don't have to sit through 4 hours and listen to me drone on for 4.5 hours. So if you want to see some of those, I'll put a link to some of those in this playlist over on the other side. If I press the correct button on my Stream Deck, this playlist over on this side. And yeah, enjoy them, and I hope you find them useful. If you've got any questions, you can always reach out. In the meantime, have a great day.